Welcome to the SEO.co Search Engine Optimization Podcast. Digital marketing essentials and next level tactics. From offsite and on-site optimization to persuasive selling and everything in between. You'll learn actionable tips on what it takes to outright and outrank your competition. Now, here's your host, Timothy Carter.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast. Today we're going to talk about 5 content mediums to add to your marketing efforts. You know, content marketing is always changing to reflect the latest technologies and the latest trends in consumption. You know, content is a broad term referring to anything from simple social media comments to extensively detailed white papers and everything in between. Using each content medium to its maximum potential is the best way to be successful in your inbound marketing campaign. So if you stay consistent with only a handful of content types, you run the risk of a stagnant or uninteresting campaign. So if you're looking to stay up to date in the content world, or if you're just looking to inject your strategy with a handful of new mediums, just try one of these content types. Number 1, journalistic articles. You know, the term journalistic articles is used somewhat loosely here. In order to be accepted into the real academic journal, you usually have to be a strong authority in the field, backed with years of experience, deep knowledge, and a full team of supporting researchers and reviewers. But you don't necessarily need to be published in a major peer-reviewed academic journal in order to reap the benefits of the journalistic article medium. You know, like white papers, journalistic articles are essentially in-depth, detailed pieces of written content that focus on a given concept. The differentiating factor with journal articles is the research factor. You know, white papers usually offer secondary research and occasionally some primary research in order to support a main point. But journal articles revolve around, some original research. Rather than, making a point and using data to support it, instead, you'll be presenting data and drawing a conclusion from it. Chances are you won't draw people in with humor or entertainment in these kinds of pieces. Instead, these are, either scientific, data-driven, logic-driven pieces, that'll heighten your status as an authority and provide source material for others to use in their other content programs. Another one, number 2 would be interviews. Interviews are a great content medium, especially for busy content marketers. That content takes the form of an organic discussion. You'll have to spend some time, finding and vetting candidates, to interview. But once you've found a potential interviewee, the remainder of the content piece practically takes care of itself. You can post your interview as a video or as an audio file. But make sure to include a transcript on your site. The written words are powerful for SEO, and the more scannable for your readers looking only to get the highlights of that piece, the better. Interviews are also valuable because they share and enhance authority. If a brand and a leading voice in the industry are both involved in the interview, both of them get a share of credit from the other's existing audience. In addition to providing some great material for growing your content audience, it also serves as a sophisticated form of relationship building and generally works as a mutually beneficial relationship. Number 3, podcasts. Hey, we're on one right now. Obviously podcasts are a series of episodes, audio or video that are free to create and syndicate throughout the web. Many leading online brands have their own podcast series, each with a unique angle or subject matter that's, explored on a regular basis. Some podcasts focus on industry developments, some focus on interviews and news, and still others have more of an audience engagement factor, bringing in questions and answers or tackling subjects from their requests that they receive. You can interview too. Like with interviews, it's also wise to include, written transcripts of each episode on your site. Since podcasts are usually on a subscription model, they can function as a social media platform as much as they do as an independent content medium. Knowing that, you can tailor your podcasting strategy to fit your audience appropriately, covering topics and speaking in a way that's more fluid than straightforward blogging, yet more structured than social media interactions. Do note, though, that podcasts do take a commitment. Unlike journal articles, which can be used once to great effect, podcasts need to be rolled out regularly before they, start generating results. Memes. Memes are still an internet sensation, though the word is often misused. Strictly defined, a meme is an idea or a behavior that spreads rapidly from individual to individual within a given culture. Originally used as a descriptor of, those evolutionary principles, the term meme itself has evolved to refer bits of online content that have captured attention and gone viral. Some internet users and online marketers have since begun to refer to any amusing picture as a meme, though this isn't always the case. It's technically impossible to start a meme since a meme does not exist until it begins to spread, but you can implement pieces of content that would become a meme in a given context. Hashtags, are an accessible example. By introducing a trend, an action, or a conversation topic, usually given a hashtag, companies hope to inspire a viral movement collected under that phrase. And of course, hashtags aren't a necessary component of meme creation, though. If you start a trend simply by making a request or doing something bold, by all means, do it. The key here is to present a piece of content in an easily digestible format, that can spread easily from one person to another, preferably in a social channel. It could be something as innocuous as a catchy tagline. And number 5, and definitely not least, and there's definitely more out there, but how about user-generated content? That can take any form, but nowadays it's become something of a medium all its own. In order to cultivate the most user-generated content, it's a good idea to open your own channel for it. The exact nature of that medium depends on your capacity, obviously. Some webmasters will develop an entire section of their site specifically to house user-generated content, such as, a forum or testimonial submission section. You could also encourage a string of video reviews or visual responses through social media, though you won't generate the same type of SEO benefits. So this type of medium is powerful because it carries more trust in the general public than straightforward branded content. No matter how personal or trustworthy your brand is, your content will always be treated with a slight degree of skepticism. Readers know that you are a for-profit business, obviously with an agenda, even if you are genuinely trying to be helpful. However, other users have no incentive to sing your praises or convince others to buy your products. As a result, user-generated content can do, wonders for your perceived authority, and you don't have to lift a finger to let it happen outside of publishing that content. Obviously, the drawback to this is, of course, the fact that you have less control over the output. You can censor offensive or incomprehensible content by deleting or policing it, but for the most part, you have to let it develop naturally on its own. Ultimately, your blend of content mediums, will be dependent on your audience's reception. Your target demographics won't have the same content preferences as your competitors. So the only way to determine your strategy's worth is to put it to the test. Experiment with these content types and measure their impact on your audience by testing your conversion rates, analyzing the rates of audience interaction, and eventually calculating the ROI based on how long it took to generate that content. Integrate these new types that make the most sense and adjust the rest of your strategy accordingly. And I think that's about it for today's episode. So if you want some more information on content marketing and link building services, come on over to SEO.co and schedule a time to have a free consultation. Learn how we can help you scale your ability to outright and outrank your competition.
Thank you for joining us on the SEO.co podcast. We appreciate your time. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit SEO.co for more resources based on today's topic, as well as access to more podcast episodes to help you improve your site's long-term SEO success.